I'm Shannon Thrasher, and this is 30-Second Tactics. Now, guys, most of my videos, if you've been watching them, are somewhat generic when it comes to tips and tactics. I don't usually break down a particular incident, but with this recent incident in Oklahoma, I feel that's exactly what I have to do. Now, if you're not familiar with it, basically a couple deputies in Oklahoma go out and detain or arrest this lady for basically acting crazy. I don't know all the details. I'm just going off the article and the video, so if I get something wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. But they handcuff her, presumably search her, and stick her in the back of their cruiser. Well, let's talk for a minute about handcuffs. They are temporary restraints. They are not a magic bullet or a magic whatever that guarantees people aren't going to escape, destroy evidence, assault you, hurt themselves. And females in particular tend to be able to get out of handcuffs better than males. They usually have smaller hands. If you don't put the cuffs on properly tight and check them, there is a chance you're going to slip out. Now, part two of this disaster is the cage. And again, I can't see the angle of the cage, the front cage. I can just see the back cage from the video. But the back cage is for lack of a better term, pretty cheesy, pretty weak-looking cage. And either the front cage isn't there or it's equally weak, because if you notice in this video, this woman is able to reach up into the front seat and pull an AR-15 back into her compartment. So that adds to another issue. Why is their AR not locked in a rifle rack? It was presumably just sitting up in the front seat where she was able to grab it. And it takes her quite a bit of time to figure it out. You can see she even ends up turning on the flashlight when she's trying to make the weapon work. But eventually she does make it work, and she starts shooting out of the car and hits a civilian that's standing there. I don't know the whole backstory. I think it may be her father or father-in-law or something like that. And then a fragment of glass or bullet or ricochet or something also hits one of the officers. Now, before we move on to that, let's talk about, there's two officers on scene. Why isn't one standing by the vehicle and making sure she stays secure and safe and, everything else? Why does it take two deputies standing there to finish the report when you have one in custody? If you got two officers, two deputies, whatever, consider one of them sitting in the vehicle or standing next to the vehicle, and visually making sure she stays secure. None of this would have happened if they'd done that. So I'm going to let this run just for a minute and let you watch it, and I'll be right back. So, as you can see here, she finally figures out how to make the rifle work. You can't quite see, it's off camera, but I assume it was an empty chamber, and she just had to figure out the charging handle. And she fires off one round initially, and then a little later there's, I think, two, possibly three more rounds. But it's going to switch to body camera here in a second, and you're going to see, and look, this is going to be harsh, and some people are going to get their feelings hurt, but I don't know these deputies or officers or whatever they are. I think they're deputies. But I'm going to be pretty rough on them because they could all have been killed because of their total lack of training and total lack of tactics. So she gets the round off, and the guy standing there gets hit in the shoulder. And the officer / deputy that you see the first body camera footage from, notice what he's doing, okay? He's just been shot with either ricochet or fragment or something. He's heard a gunshot. He's taking his radio out. He's calling for help instead of getting in the gunfight. And you'll notice all this seconds later, he's run for cover. He's done all this. He's talking on the radio. He's talking to his partner. And yet he still has that piece of paper in his hand, which I assume is part of the report he was working on, or maybe a committal paper or something. But he is so out of this fight, it hasn't even occurred to him to drop the piece of paper and put a gun in his hand. Now, I know some of y'all are going to say, I'm being rough on him, but this is training, guys. This all comes back to training. That man, and I don't know him, but I'm just going to badmouth him and live with the consequences. He is not mentally prepared to be in a gunfight. He hasn't trained. He hasn't run scenarios. He hasn't run simulations. He didn't run through it in his mind. If he had, the last thing he'd do would be running around the yard with a piece of paper when he should have a gun in his hand. Now, this is the same incident, just the other officer's body camera. So you can see there, okay, they just all kind of take several seconds to do anything. So, you know, I don't know these guys. I hate to be so rough on them, but this is the kind of stuff we need to overcome, guys. It's a miracle that this wasn't 2 civilians killed and 2 cops killed. So anyway, guys, that's what I have for you this time. As always, work, train, repeat. Stay safe.